You always get what you give. In other words, you will never attract what you want. You always manifest what you're being. And this is one of the great misunderstandings around manifestation, is that you don't get what you think about. You don't manifest a desire through mentalization, but you're always creating the reality based on what you're being. Here's a perfect analogy. You may have seen these tables of sand that are changing their geometrical pattern based on the vibrational frequency of sound underneath the table. So there's a piece of glass with sand or even water on the surface of it, and the sound underneath it that is changing is a vibrational frequency that recreates the pattern of the sand on the surface to be a different shape. And that shape is your reality. It is your experience. It is your life. And the sound is your being. It is the frequency of what you are being, of what you are emanating. And so no matter how much you try to change the shape of the sand on the surface, it will always revert back to the frequency underneath it. That's an analogy for your life. No matter how much you try through effort, through hard work, and through struggle to try to change the appearance, control your circumstances, it will always revert back to the underlying frequency of what you're being. And you see, the being that you are is the construct of your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your actions. But the actions are the furthest down trickle effect out of your own self-concept, your identity. And so what you identify as, what you're attached to in terms of concepts, in terms of beliefs, will create the identification with thoughts and feelings, right? All of these thoughts and feelings are always going on, but the ones that are highlighted in your consciousness are the ones that are most associated with what you're identified as. And so then you will act on certain thoughts with a certain emotionalized state behind them. You see, every act, every behavior is first and foremost a mentalized act. It is an experience in imagination. So it is your imagination and the mentalized acts that are outpressed into your reality as your behaviors, your habits, and your physical actions. But every time we try to change those physical actions without fundamentally changing the nature of who we believe we are just changing the surface of the sand, which is going to revert back to the frequency of that geometrical state that is underlying the surface, right? Under the veil. And that's why this whole kind of idea of the subconscious and the conscious is so important. This is why I love the Carl Jung quote of, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You see, this is the nature of that geometrical shape of the sand, because it's being directed by the unconscious, the underlying vibrational state. And no matter how much you try to change the configuration of that sand, it will always go back to mirroring that vibrational state. So your state of being is governing your life. And so if you want to make more money, if you want more connection, if you want to feel more love, if you want to be more successful, if you want to create synchronicities and miracles in your life, if you want more ease and joy, more of a streamlined path of least resistance in your life, you don't need to do more. You don't need more effort. You don't need to work harder. You don't even need to work smarter. All of this is trying to force the change on the surface of that glass. But underneath it is that vibrational state, that identity, that subtle reality. As Carl Jung said, the subconscious. And so by going into the subtle nuances of your self, you recreate reality from its source. And so that's what is meant by becoming what you seek. And in truth, you are always at the heart of what you seek, your true self, because your true, authentic self is the highest vibrational state that you have access to. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Because you don't need to improve or become anything more than what you always already have been as your true, authentic self. So when you align with who you really are, everything that is for you comes to you naturally, effortlessly, easily. And what appears before you is the path of least resistance, a streamlined slipstream of ease, magic, joy, miracles, all unfolding for you based on who you are being. And that is the nature of the aligned creator. And that is the premise of my aligned creator blueprint, which you, if you don't already have your own copy, you can download it by clicking the link in my caption or commenting creator down below, and I'll send you a link where you can get yours. And really, this is the premise of understanding the energy that is your consciousness, right? Because the consciousness, the state of being that you are, is literally governing your energy. And your energy is your energy in motion, your emotions, the thoughts that you identify with, which are charged with that emotion, right? The beliefs that you are attached to, that you've picked up in your life, that you have been kind of programmed with, that you have bought into, right? All of which is creating the construct of your self-concept. And the more identified with this you are, the more your reality reflects that. So that's why it's so important to understand these three keys of awareness, understanding, and acceptance. Because until you have gotten to the root of your subconscious sense of self, and through awareness, through understanding of why you've picked that up, where it's come from, and why it's so believable to you, then you won't be able to really accept the truth of who you are and the reality of what you've been buying into. And therefore, you'll be limiting yourself to the seeming fate of your unconscious state. So the vibrational, subtle reality within you is always outpressing itself into your external, physical reality. And so you will never have what you want unless you are already that. That's just the tricky, maybe frustrating nature of this world, of this realm, is that if you're not already what you want, if you're not already that state, if you don't already align with that vibrational reality, then it will not show itself around you. You will not experience it as your reality until you shift internally, especially to the degree to which you are no longer dependent on your circumstances changing, for your reality to reconfigure, or for anything at all to change around you. Because again, that is the mirror of reality, is that it is constantly reflecting back to you what you are being. So by doing this inner work to uncover what you're identified as, what you're attached to, and what you're emanating out of your beingness, then everything will just be reflecting back to you what you're unconscious of. And so that's the beautiful thing, is you don't need to look anywhere further than right before you in your conscious experience to see what you are believing you are, what you are identified as, and what you're still holding on to as the attachments within your consciousness. And that is self-knowledge. To seek first the kingdom of heaven, which is yourself, and to see what you are holding as your vibrational reality within. And everything then, once let go of, once understood, once accepted, becomes a reflection of who you truly are. And that is the aligned creator. And this aligned creator blueprint that I mentioned earlier is a 50-page or less document that goes through all of this and the true metaphysical nature of success and money and living true to your calling and going to the heart of your vibrational state and aligning with your true self, so that everything that you want to create, whether you're an entrepreneur or an artist or a creator, or perhaps a guide or a coach, is then aligned with who you truly are. And you step onto the path of least resistance, which is your calling. And then everything comes to you, not by force, not by doing, not by hard work, but by what you are being. So again, if you want to have access to this, comment creator down below and I'll send you a link.